As I want to be a designer, I like drawing, and I'm a creative person. I will be an economist.
Tall and honor.
Красивый, добрый, ласковый, сильный.
A man who knows what he wants.
So the first thing I ask is, are the girls real? Usually, as everyone wants to know, because there's a lot of people who think that for some reason that the women are so beautiful that they must not be real. Well, the fact is that yes, they are real. The Russian girls do happen to be, for the most part, very attractive women. Not only Russian, but Russian, Ukrainian, all the former Soviet Union. Something about their genes, maybe, I don't know.
Friends are just really in the story. It's almost a fairy tale-like story. Although that's not how I intended it, that's kind of what it's ended up being. And so really on a daily basis, I'm asked, so when is she coming over? When's your big date? Have you got married yet? Everybody's just really, they think it's a neat story. I get teased a few times about the internet bride or the mail-order bride because I know there's a lot of that occurs, or at least the perception from here is that a lot of that occurs.
Fiancé visa is a non-immigrant visa. It allows an individual to come in order to be married in the United States. So it's the couple has not married. The U.S. citizen files the petition to allow the consulate to issue this visa so the fiancé can come to the United States and then they can be married in the United States. Then after the fiancé comes, and the marriage must occur within 90 days, the fiancé, foreign national, can then apply to become a permanent resident.
You have two very different cultures, very, very different cultures with completely different expectations and completely different bases that you come from. Completely different, not values, the values can be the same way, but completely different interpretations.
The answer that the American men keep giving when you ask them just that question, what is it that made you decide to seek a Russian bride, the first word they say is femininity. They find that Russian women are feminine. They say they are fed up with American women who, under the influence of feminism, don't care about how they look, how they dress, who pay no attention to grooming. They find the Russian women extremely attractive. Even if they don't have much money, they're well groomed, their hair is done, their nails are done, they're clean, they don't go around in ragged or dirty jeans, or a top and a bottom that doesn't match. And they also don't feel that they have to show they're as good as men at doing everything. One man said to me, I like the idea that my wife said that she wanted to be a housewife and a wife and mother, that she didn't have particular career ambitions. Another one married a woman who's a biologist and a chemist, and he wanted her to work and she wanted her to work, but her priorities were quite clear. The home came first. And they liked the idea of women who enjoyed being women, who played up to men, and who didn't feel that they were in some kind of competition or constantly being exploited by men.
Russian women, the Russians in general have had just a tough life, and now that it's a democratic society and there's a lot of things that the government doesn't give them, some perceive that as being even tougher. I think there's a large number of people that would like to leave, maybe even come to America specifically. And I'm not saying that American men probably exploit that, but you look for men who are looking for very beautiful women to have as wives, trophy wives maybe, and they find people who want out, that maybe just kind of sets up a relationship where maybe otherwise it wouldn't occur.
It's a difficult life in Russia. I mean, you know, the average person that may be 30 years old to have a good job there, they're making $200 a month. And, you know, from our standard of living, it's a very difficult way to live, you know, and the opportunity for doing something really, really big there in a person's lifetime is not strong because you can't get loans. There's not a whole lot of things you can do as far as building wealth. Plus you have a tax system over there where they tax about 50% of everything they make. So it's a difficult situation. They're still going through a lot of changes there. But from a personal standpoint, I still think that the biggest attraction to Russia from an American standpoint is the guys are so attracted to the women because they are loaded with beautiful women there. I mean, and they all have these bond women over there that all the guys want to go and meet.
It translates into power. It translates into desire for obedience and control. It is old patriarchy is what you're seeing there. The new female is in this country is certainly not necessarily one dependent on her spouse for her identity. She has the education, the wherewithal to be economically self-sufficient. She doesn't need the male. And so here's the guy saying, well, I want to marry someone like dear old mom, so I'll go to that part of the world where that type of person still exists.
The main thing that my clients tell me is that they're not happy with the ladies that they are meeting right now. It's not to say that there aren't a lot of good ladies out there. It's just that the ones that they are meeting, just like the ones I was meeting, just weren't right for us. And something about the Russian women is very attractive. We tend to like the way they look. They do seem to take better care of themselves. They dress better. You don't see too many Russian women walking around in very poorly dressed, which is sort of amazing considering how little money they actually make. But they do have they do take very good care of themselves, the way they look, the way they act. Most of them are very educated. Almost all the Russian ladies that are on our website and that I've met personally have college degrees. And something about them just is more of what we're looking for. And a lot of people like to describe it as kind of the way that women used to be maybe 50 years ago.
Я хочу сказать, что, наверное, все-таки американские женщины, они более независимы, как бы вот и в плане и создания семьи, в плане создания карьеры. И я считаю, что, ну, наверное, во всех, так сказать, отраслях. Вот. Наши женщины, они более зависимы. Они более зависимы. И как-то вот, может быть, вот только последние годы тоже вот какие-то такие проблески независимости стали появляться. Но в основном многие годы наши женщины там, с молодого возраста воспитывались как бы в духе там, уважения к семье, в духе уважения к мужу. Возможно, вот это вот нравится американским мужчинам, то, что им хотелось бы, может быть, ну, как бы видеть женщину, вот, для которой там вот, семья это прежде всего, вот, муж это самое главное, семья это самое главное. Остальное, может быть, я ошибаюсь.
The women of the former Soviet Union don't have like a women's lib kind of attitude, which most of my clients are very happy about. The ladies are nice. They are, for the most part, like I said, very educated, but they don't have an attitude of being stuck up or being unapproachable, maybe. It's very unusual. If we walk down the street here, probably in Austin or Houston or one of our other cities here in Texas, and just stop an attractive woman on the street and try to speak to her, she's probably going to run screaming for the police or, you know, give us the high sign, something of this nature, because she's afraid that we're some kind of creep of some kind. The ladies over there would actually stop and talk to you on the street.
What the men are looking for, they are looking for taking care or taking control of a relationship. And I don't think that can work. Because if a woman is willing to leave Russia and take that step, she has taken responsibility and made a decision. She's not going to go back to having someone control her and take care of everything for her.
A very big problem, particularly with the internet marriages, is what is called the gilded cage syndrome, where you've got a man, say, living in a suburb, where he goes to work every morning, drives to work. You have a young woman who doesn't know English well, left alone in a huge house with all the conveniences she's always wanted, a washer, a dryer, all kinds of kitchen appliances, and so on. And yet she's essentially a prisoner of the gilded cage. Most of them don't drive. She can't go out. She can't even go to the store to buy a container of milk on her own. She's left there alone all day waiting for him to come back. The Russian girls, particularly the internet marriages, miss their families and friends terribly. Limited on communication. They can run up huge phone bills. They very often need to go to school or take courses that may not be so easy to arrange. They discover themselves essentially married to a stranger whom they're getting to know in a strange country.
A lot of guys come into this wanting to figure out how's the cheapest way they can go about doing this. And that is probably the most frustrating part about the business, now since I've been doing it for 5 years, is explaining to the guys that you're not buying a used car, you are talking about a wife here. And they, of course, will run over there and marry the first person that says yes, and usually not with ours, but go to St. Petersburg or Moscow or Kiev, which, there's 100 different girls in a room that'll say yes to anybody, and come back over here and then wonder why it failed with one of them. And those particular cases are frustrating, and then they come back to us and then they later say that they got scammed by this other company and all this kind of thing. But the reality of it is they did it to themselves. I mean, how bright of a person does it take to take the cheapest deal, go over to Moscow or St. Petersburg or Kiev, walk into a room with 500 girls, all of them desperate to leave the country. Nobody's ever interviewed them. Nobody's ever even, nobody knows anything about them. They could all be prostitutes for all anybody knows. And they ask the first pretty one that comes along that says yes, if she would, would she marry the guy? He looks like Barney, and then they come back over here and they wonder why the girl after 6 months to a year or whatever runs off.
Given the status of the remnants of the old USSR right now, I would suspect probably a large number of individuals more than willing to leave that situation. So with that formula, someone who looks like me, maybe having some European heritage, coupled by great eagerness on the part of these women to escape what has become pretty much a political and economic nightmare, it seems to be a reasonable match.
It seems to me that they have this idea that they will meet an American man who will have money and will help them set up and achieve their dream. And this is not the kind of man that will go looking for a bride in Russia. Not someone who is established and someone who fits their dreams.
We were given freedom, and it was after Soviet Union period. That's why we could meet, and that's why we are interested more in meeting other, not only American, but so other foreigners. So how it happens? You meet, you do not expect something, then you suddenly or step by step falling in love, and then marriage.
Russians is still in some ways, I think, a very male-dominated society, or at least that's what I'm getting just from, again, her telling me, and just in how she's behaving is kind of flies in the face of how others behave. She lives with her cousin, Tatiana's son, Anton, lives with her, and he apparently told her last week, "I don't know how he puts up with you. Why he should just tell you what to do and you should be doing it.
In general, now in Ukraine, much more women than men. It's true. I live in Poltava, and as for demographical situation in Poltava, for one man, 6 women. Yeah. And you know, in general, I wouldn't like to say in the bad way about Ukrainian men. I only can say I wouldn't like to get married to Ukrainian men. It's exactly. I think that American men more polite with women, I think, and more respect women, and more responsible creating family.
I know very few Russian men who are up to American standards in relationships. I find them, and that includes a lot of my acquaintances, my friends, and even my family, rather misogynistic. And this is what they want to get away from. I think Russian women see American men as modern, progressive, as capable of sharing their life, not as having them sit at home and be the 1950s housewife. So I don't think that at all that's what they might. I mean, it's possible, but as a rule, not necessarily. I think they're coming to America to make a new life for themselves, not to repeat the same life in comfort. I don't think comfort alone is going to be enough.
There are lots and lots of agencies which will provide email, pictures, addresses, let the men correspond, and then arrange for tours where they go over and they can meet both the girls they've corresponded with and others at enormous parties called socials. You may have 60 American men on a tour group and 800 women at one of these things. And they have interpreters available, they have tour facilities, they can go out with them, date them, get to know them for a couple of days, and if they decide that they're seriously interested, an American can apply for a fiancé visa for the girl. This means that when she comes over to the U.S., she has a 3-month stay, and during the 90 days, he either has to marry her, or at the end of the 90 days, she has to leave the country.
Well, I try to tell my clients, first of all, that they need to try to meet as many women as they can in person. The typical client, I advise to start off, write in a few letters, send their photograph, high-quality professional photograph to the ladies, just as more or less an introduction. See if the ladies are interested in them. If they are, then exchange some letters for about 3 months. And after about 3 months, I think it's enough time has gone by that it's time to get on an airplane and go over there and meet them. Ladies don't like to write letters forever because they have a lot of our clients do write letters and just never go to Russia.
I met him in the internet. I put my information in a marriage agency, and he found me there. Okay, he wrote me, and I liked his letter very, very much because it was a very, very sincere letter of a very open-minded person. I understand English, maybe not so perfect, but pretty well to feel it. From the tone of the letter. And I didn't mistake.
And you asked me, well, how, after knowing someone for a week, do we enter such a commitment? Well, right now in our country, we typically marry strangers. Unlike the past, where maybe we married the gal next door, know her fully. We now marry strangers. We're in a hurry-up culture. That's why the focus is on romantic love It's quick, but it might not last. And it just seems to be kind of a postmodern storyline that let's accelerate this, the most basic social union possible, and a week's up, let's do it. Isn't that amazing? We wouldn't be willing to do that with someone of our own culture, but yet we're going to make the leap with someone who is coming from such a totally different world that the odds of it working are even more highly doubtable.
We had a lot of talking and communicating, but one thing I did realize about Russians in general and women in particular is that all that communication was well and fine. It's FaceTime that they consider as building on the relationship. Even though it would be early March and we'd been communicating for several months, she said, well, but I just met you. I've only met you one time. And when in fact we've been communicating, verbally for a long time. So showing up, seeing how the relationship developed from there, as soon as I stepped off the airplane and saw her again, I was sure that I had not made a mistake.
We communicate every day by telephone, by email also. I give him tasks in Russian, Russian sentences, so he answers me in English, and I check it so by telephone. So
because of a lack of knowledge of the language, very often the woman discovers that the person she marries is not the person whom she thought he was. Because when you're dealing with someone from another culture, all the cultural clues can be wrong. All the things which you use, all the gestures, facial expressions, little words with which we put people into certain categories and know whom we're dealing with, don't work when you're dealing with people from another culture. And that's just as true for Americans who discover that the Russian bride they have is not who they thought she was.
Look at what a monolingual society we are. We choose not to learn even the language of other cultures, and how can you learn where one's coming from culturally if you can't even speak the language?
Quite often there is no language, there is no common language. The women who come, some of the women don't speak English at all, and hardly any of these men speak Russian. The men who look for mail-order brides don't speak Russian. They don't make the effort. They're not interested in that. And the women are willing to learn English, but they usually haven't yet, or else their English is not sufficient to conduct a telephone conversation.
Before my coming here, I thought I will be worrying. I will be worrying about everything. But now I can say for sure that I feel very comfortable here. I don't feel no barriers speaking with people. We were going someplace, and I was trying to speak with people in shops, in stores maybe, in American. Yeah. And now I speaking with you, and I don't feel some barrier because I can see that I understand you well, and I feel you understand me well. So I'm not worried.
But there's no question that foreign nationals who come here from a different culture, a different language, have a very difficult time learning about what their rights are and understanding and feeling strong enough to step forward and assert their rights.
I think that the most difficult thing is learning the language is important, but they'll do that, the ladies can do that in 6 months. They can understand it pretty well. That's really not a huge hurdle. But I think the most difficult thing, living in a situation for 4 years now, I think the most difficult thing for a woman is being able to live without her family on a daily basis. I think that is probably the most difficult thing anybody can go through in their lives for happiness. At the same time, you could be miserable, but at least you could be with your family. In Russia, you'd be lonely, not have a husband, not have a chance for a decent life, but at least you got your mom and dad around.
Relationships with family. She may be quite surprised by her American husband's relationship to his family. He may be surprised at how much an adult woman misses her mother. Things like this have to be taken into account. There is a much greater closeness. Men may call their mothers in Russia every day or every other day, which a lot of adult men here would not do. And Russians will miss those close family ties. They can be quite surprised, for example, by an American husband who does not call his mother every day. They may think that there's a terrible relationship there. Well, from the point of view of the American, things are perfectly fine.
The Russian family is very much like the family that we used to have here 50 years ago. Everybody sits down together at supper together. Everyone meets, at the family table. Everyone discusses the family business together. We've kind of fragmented that now. I mean, I eat at 6 o'clock, somebody else eats at 7 o'clock, somebody eats at 5 o'clock. It's because we're so busy, we're running around crazy, and so we don't have that nucleus that we used to have. So the Russian family is very much different in that they do have a very small apartment, so you do have to communicate. You have no choice. Everybody knows your business. So they do communicate to each other about everything. And they are very family-oriented for that reason, too.
My relatives and my friends, they give me freedom. So it's my life. And if I want to do this, if it is my choice, they will help me. They will participate in this, but they won't say no to me.
In the beginning, they couldn't understand my idea. Because they had old tradition, and they was sure it is impossible to know a person well through correspondence.
At least in the beginning, most of my men clients tell me that their families think that they're absolutely crazy for thinking about this. Now, probably that changes a little bit after they've met the woman. But in the beginning, they think, why do you need to get on an airplane and go all the way to Russia or Ukraine to meet somebody when you can meet somebody right next door?
Let's take maybe the grandparent generation, i.e. the parents of the husband marrying, themselves coming of age during the Cold War, with the evil Soviet Empire and so forth, and now here's our son marrying one from said place. I'm sure there would be some kind of value questions for some of them. And then we get the flip side maybe from the wife's family perspective, where maybe they were socialized to be good communists. And what do we get in exchange for that but another capitalist? It would seem to be a slap in the face for both generations, and be tensions at the start in these kinds of unions.
This is another thing that is very difficult for many Russians. It's American individualism. Russians tend to think much more collectively, to see themselves as part of a group, as part of a family, rather than the individual I'll do it my way, me first ideology, which they can find quite difficult to accept. Yeah, by the way, one thing I'd like to add, another thing that's imperative, is a sense of humor for both. I think the most successful marriages that I've seen, both parties had a very good and very well-developed sense of humor that helped get over the irritation.
And so what I tell my clients is, look, I'm a good example. Don't go fall in love with the very first girl you meet. You need to get to know them, okay? You can't just get on a plane and go over there and meet somebody for 2 or 3 days and say, let's get married. Because that's a mistake that you'll make, just like I made. Not that it's a bad woman, it's just that it's a mistake because you don't know each other well enough. So spend some time together and think about this, and make a right decision.
If she has a support network of others from her country of origin, I would guess that would certainly help a lot. But if you, let's say, end up in a place like, I don't know, northern Iowa or something, where there is no one else who speaks one's own language or has one's own values, I couldn't imagine anything more lonely.
I think that an immigrant coming to the United States from a very different culture, a different background, can easily become depressed and emotionally suffer when they come to the United States. And it takes a particularly helpful and sympathetic spouse who's going to take the time to help his foreign national spouse become accustomed to this country, to find friends, to reach out and help them. And there are obviously many very successful marriages between U.S. citizens and foreign nationals, but it's usually because that U.S. citizen takes the time and has the patience and sympathy to help his foreign national get over obvious changes that they have to make when they come here.
I suppose you could call it a pioneer spirit. They do remind me of pioneer women who are willing and able to go to a place that they don't know, and learn about it and make their way there.
First of all, I would like to get used to think what I have never seen before in Ukraine. I mean, to start to cook American food, to do shopping right, to use all home appliance right. It's absolutely different. For example, all morning today, Larry learned us to use his vacuum cleaner and washing machine because we have absolutely different these home appliances. Yes. And also I would like to learn to care about this big house because I think it will be pretty difficult for me because I lived in Ukraine in small 2-room apartment, and it was take probably 1 hour to clean it completely. But here it is absolutely another way. It's so big for me, so big and unusual.
Russia is my home, and there is a proverb, east to west, home is best. That's why it's difficult for me to answer what it's for me to be Russian. But I'm proud to be Russian because for me Russia is very interesting and it's a very powerful country so Russia had to suffer a lot. I do not want to speak about Russian and Americans, just a good man is a good match to a good woman. I think love can overcome everything.